Hello, this is Norman Daniels from Paxton Presbyterian Church, and today behind me you see what had been for over 100 years the church manse. For the first 100 years of our founding, we had no manse, and that is because the early ministers, going back into the mid-1700s, had their own farms, or they lived in the city of Harrisburg, or they boarded with other families. But then, in 1850, Reverend Mitchell came here. Now, in 1850, he was a bachelor, but he later married Mary Weisling of Middletown. And when that happened, a manse was needed. The manse was built in 1855-56, and it was built without debt because nearly every family contributed towards a $2,000 cost to build the house. $2,000 for a stone structure. The structure has 9 rooms, including a service quarters in the back that connects to the kitchen via a very narrow back stairway. It has bedrooms with no closets because in 1855, when this was built, people didn't use closets, they stored their clothing in dressers. It has a center hall, beautiful center hall, with a grand balustrade, and it had high mantels above Vulcan heaters. Now when you come around to the back, we'll look at all the chimneys that are in this house. There's at least one fireplace that we have found, but I think the rest of the chimneys were for these heaters. And the windowsills, by the way, are 17 inches deep. It's built like a fort. When Reverend Mitchell moved in, there was no housewarming for him. He just received many gifts of food given by farmers who made up most of the congregation of this church. When he left, Reverend Downey in 1875 was married. And as a wedding present, the ladies of the church gave him a new carpet for the dining room of this building. After he left, we had the ill-fated Reverend Williamson. Reverend Williamson was here from 1887 to 1894. During his reception for his bride here at this house, bricks fell into the old chimney and coal gas was noted by guests at the reception. Later that night, that gas nearly killed the young couple. Near the end of his term in 1894, there was a fire in the attic of this church, or I should say of this manse. It took near a year to repair the damage, and it cost $1,300, almost as much as it cost to build the whole place originally. Unfortunately, the church lost most of its old records, the colonial records, which had been stored in the attic. And today, if you go up there, you can still see rafters and studs that are blackened by that fire. When the Reverend Luther Davis came in 1896, he first boarded with Mrs. Shylock, who rented the manse. But after a few years, the church took the manse back, and for the first time, the church partly furnished a manse. It furnished 2 rooms upstairs, the library, dining room, and kitchen. And Mrs. James Boyd, who is an angel of our church and paid for a lot of construction at the church and here, furnished the parlor herself. Finally, we have Reverend Picard and Reverend Murlock, And during that time, about 1912, Mrs. James Boyd paid for a bathroom, which replaced the outhouse that was here before. And she also had electric lights installed to replace the tallow candles and oil lamps. Reverend Picard was a bachelor, and he lived here with his mother. But he did sell the stable that was in the back, which was cost, they got $25 to have it removed and carted away. And we'll see that area on our next stop. As we look at this manse, you can see a little bit more of the back than we could before, but I want to show you this picture. This shows the manse in 1938, and notice there's a farm field there, or actually where the camera location would be in the field itself. Behind us is Wilhelm Road, and Wilhelm Road is not there because at best it was just some tracks from the farmer. But you can sort of see how the building matched in with the land around it. Now, as we look at it today, the house sort of sits on an island. And what was the farm lane is now a very important road in this area. And if you see, the road is lower, and is because when they dug Wilhelm Road, they tried to make it not quite as hilly, a little more gradual, but by doing that, they actually left the manse high and dry. Interestingly enough, they took all the fill from that road and filled the ravine that's behind the manse, and we'll see next. Here we see the back of the manse, and if you look on the other side of the wall, you'll see it's very flat there. And it is flat because at one time there was a ravine, a deep ravine. I was told that it was up to 15 feet deep. And when they did the work on Wilhelm Road, that they filled it in. And that's why we have such a flat area right here. If you look towards the screen porch that is there today, which was put on for Reverend Hedden about 30 years ago, there behind that is a garage, and as an addition, they had a stable for the minister's horse there. And that's the one that was torn down, and they got $25 for the wood from it being torn down. I want to show you this picture, and if you look at it, you can see the wall, and you might see the ravine, and notice the bridge. The bridge probably started somewhere in the area where we're standing right now and went all the way across to probably in the open space between the wall on the other side. We also notice the shutters. This would be Victorian era kind of thing. The porch, of course, is sort of taken care of by the addition that was put on. And notice a low wall along the cemetery. It's very low, almost a tripping wall, if you will. One little item would be that Reverend Williamson, when he was here, used to shoot rabbits in the cemetery from inside probably the stable. He'd fire out for the rabbits. And as we look at what we have now, we see the vestiges of what once was. We see the certainty of what is, and we don't know what will be. But this manse is no longer the property of this church. It belongs to one of our beloved members, but it always will have a very important part in the history of Paxton Church. I hope you have a blessed day. You're always welcome at Paxton. We have our Sunday services at 10:15. God bless you.